67 doesn't feel like anything, really. It's not a milestone. It's not a round number. It just sounds tired. I woke up before the sun rose like always, made myself a cup of black coffee, no sugar, no cream, and sat on the old porch swing with the newspaper crossword and a blanket I didn't need. It was early spring in Brookhaven, Oregon, the kind of morning where the air smells like wet earth and leftover winter. The grass in my yard looked stubborn as ever, patchy faded no matter how much water I gave it. The porch creaked under me with every slow sway. It was quiet. Not peaceful, not lonely, just that middle place in between where you stop noticing the difference. That's what silence becomes after 3 years of not hearing from your only child. Then came the knock, just one, firm, intentional, not the lazy thud of a mail carrier or the rapid-fire rhythm of a kid selling candy bars. Just one knock, followed by silence, and then the sound of footsteps retreating down the front walk. I didn't move at first. When I opened the door, the street was empty. But there it was on the doormat, a box, brown paper, neatly taped edges, and a soft blue ribbon tied once around the center. No card on top, no delivery slip, nothing flashy. I bent down, picked it up. It was heavier than it looked. When I turned it over, I saw my name written in sharp, tidy handwriting. June Albright. I hadn't seen that handwriting in 3 years, but I knew it instantly. My son Elliot wrote like an architect, clean, exact always in blue ink, like black was too aggressive and pencil too soft. Seeing his handwriting again made something shift inside me. Not a tear, not a smile, just a pause. I whispered my name under my breath like I needed to hear it out loud again. It didn't sound any different, but it felt different. Back inside, I placed the box on the kitchen table. The coffee had gone cold. I didn't reheat it. I just stood there staring at the package like it might open itself and explain everything. 3 years of silence, no call when I was in the hospital with pneumonia, no word when my sister passed away, not even a Christmas card, and now this, a box, on my birthday. I sat down, my hands folded in my lap like a schoolgirl waiting for her name to be called. I should have opened it right then, but I couldn't. Something about it, I don't know. Maybe I needed to believe there was still time to decide whether or not I wanted it. Eventually, curiosity won. Under the brown paper was a clean white box. Inside, resting on layers of tissue, were handmade truffle chocolates, dozens of them. Each one was crafted like it had been made by hand. Glossy swirls, delicate gold foil, dusted tops that shimmered faintly under the light. Not a single one the same. My son had never baked a day in his life. When he was 10, he refused to eat anything homemade unless it came with a label. Now, this perfectly shaped, arranged with precision. They looked like something out of a boutique chocolate shop window. Taped to the inside of the lid was a small card. His handwriting again. Just 6 words. Happy birthday, Mom. Let's start over. I stared at those words longer than I should have. My hands were shaking, but only slightly, not from age, from not knowing how to feel. I wanted to believe it. I wanted to think maybe something had shifted, maybe the silence had weighed on him too. But I'd lived long enough to know better than to trust hope too fast. I didn't eat them. I wanted to. God knows I wanted to. But I didn't, not out of spite, maybe pride, maybe fear. Or maybe it was something quieter, something I couldn't name but couldn't ignore. Instead, I took one truffle, the most ordinary-looking one, a pale blue foil with silver dust, and placed it in a small Tupperware. I sealed the lid and tucked it in the back of the fridge like I was saving it for later, even though I didn't believe there'd be a later. The rest, I rewrapped them carefully layer by layer. I already knew who I'd give them to. Diane Lowell lived just across town. She wasn't just Marina's mother. She was one of the few people who'd stayed kind to me after everything fell apart. She brought soup when I was sick, sent holiday cards even when Elliot didn't, and still invited me to her backyard brunches acting like I hadn't been quietly erased from the family. I didn't tell her where the chocolates came from, just said someone had dropped them off and they were too beautiful to eat alone. She tried to protest, of course, said I should keep them, but I waved her off with a smile. I think she could tell I didn't want to talk. Later, after I dropped them off and drove home, I stood in my kitchen staring at the spot on the table where the box had been. For a moment I felt, relieved, not because they were gone, but because I didn't have to decide what they meant. That night I couldn't sleep, not from guilt, at least not yet. It was more like that feeling when you forget to lock the door and suddenly every creak in the house feels like a warning. So I cleaned, wiped down countertops that didn't need wiping, refolded towels that were already neat, moved the same coffee mug from shelf to shelf like it might reveal something new. When I opened the trash to take it out, I noticed something near the bottom, small clear plastic, like the kind vitamins come in. No label. Just a faint ring of white powder clinging to the inside wall. It wasn't mine. I hadn't seen it before. The cap was screwed on tight. I stared at it for a long time. Then I walked to the fridge, opened the door, and pulled out the truffle chocolate I'd saved. It looked the same, still delicate, still perfect, still terrifying. And then the phone rang. It was Marina. Her voice was sharp, rushed. "June, my mom's in the hospital." I felt the air go out of me. "She collapsed this morning," Marina continued. "She was vomiting, confused, couldn't stand. They thought it was a virus, but it's getting worse." I leaned against the counter. "What happened?" "I don't know. She said something about chocolates. Said you brought them over." My mouth went dry. "I did," I said. "Just a box someone left at my door." Silence. "Do you think they could have made her sick?" "I don't know," I whispered. "I didn't eat any." Another long pause. "If you think of anything at all, you'll tell me, right?" "Yes," I said, "of course." We hung up. I stood there in the dark kitchen holding the truffle in one hand and the bottle in the other. I hadn't realized I was shaken until the fridge door swung closed behind me. That night, I called someone I hadn't spoken to in years, Dr. Serena Kwan. She worked at North River Lab. We weren't exactly close, but once upon a time, we'd helped each other through a few difficult seasons. She owed me a favor. I didn't say much, just that I needed something tested quietly. She agreed to meet me the next morning. I hung up, placed the truffle and the bottle on my desk, and sat down across from them. They looked small under the lamplight, innocent almost. But something inside me already knew. The next morning, I met Serena in the parking lot behind North River Lab. She still looked the same, calm, efficient, the kind of person who didn't ask questions unless she already knew the answer. Her hair was pulled back tight, and her white coat looked too crisp for how early it was. I handed her the small container with the truffle chocolate and the plastic bottle sealed in a Ziploc bag. "This the kind of favor I'm going to regret?" she asked, half smiling. "I hope not," I said. "But I need to know what's in them quietly." She nodded and disappeared through the side door without another word. I sat in my car with the engine running and the radio off. My hands were cold again, same as the night before. I didn't drive away. I just sat there staring at the lab door, hoping what I already suspected wasn't true. I tried to distract myself, close my eyes, breathe slowly, thought about anything else. But memory's funny like that. It doesn't listen when you tell it to leave. Instead, it pulled me backward. Back to Elliot, age 8, folding napkins into perfect triangles at the dinner table and getting upset when I told him it didn't matter. Back to when he was 10 lining his books by height and crying when I moved one. Back to 12 when he refused to speak to me for a week because I bought the wrong brand of ketchup. I'd called him particular, said he was brilliant, said he just lacked order. Marina had liked that about him too at first, but I'd seen it shift. I remembered one night, years ago, when I baked cookies for a neighborhood potluck. I'd made them with walnuts by mistake. Elliot bit into one and immediately spit it into the trash. Then he scrubbed his mouth until his lips bled. I should have seen it then. The control, the precision, the cracks. But I didn't. I was still lost in those thoughts when my phone rang. Unknown number. I hesitated, then picked up. It was Marina again. This time she sounded different. Hollow. "They're moving Mom to ICU," she said. "She's not responding to fluids or anti-nausea meds. They're consulting internal medicine." I felt my heart thud slow and deep. "What are they saying?" I asked. "Nothing conclusive yet. They're running more tests. But she keeps repeating your name." I swallowed hard. "Did you tell them about the chocolate silence?" "Then no." I waited. She didn't explain. She didn't ask if she should. She just hung up. I stared at the phone, the background hum of the world around me growing distant. Then it rang again. This time it was Serena. We ran the basics, she said. Nothing alarming, but I had them go deeper, just in case. And there's something in the truffle, she said. It's not common. Traces of a compound consistent with aconitine. I blinked. Monk's hood, she explained. It's a toxic plant. You'd never find it in a commercial kitchen. It's lethal in the right dosage. Definitely not an accident. My stomach dropped. You said someone ate these? I didn't answer. June, she said more gently now. Do you want me to file a formal report? No, I said, not yet. Okay, she replied, but keep that sample locked up and keep yourself safe. I hung up and sat in the car for what felt like hours, so it was true. There was poison in the chocolate, and I had handed that box to Diane with a smile like it was just another batch of birthday sweets. God. I thought about calling Elliot, thought about asking him if he knew, if he had touched the chocolates, if he'd made them. But the truth was I already knew he hadn't. That kind of careful pipe in the match and sugar dust, the blue ribbon tied just once, not too tight, not sloppy, it wasn't him. It was Marina. And for the first time since the box had arrived, the question wasn't, why would he do this? It was, how long has she wanted me gone? I didn't sleep that night, not because I was afraid of dying, but because for the first time in a long time, I was afraid of being right. The truffle was still in the fridge, the bottle was still in the drawer, and somewhere in a hospital bed, Diane was barely holding on. I sat at the kitchen table long after the sun came up. The house felt quieter than usual, like it was listening. At 10:03 a.m., I picked up my phone and called Elliot. It rang twice. Hey, he answered, cautious. Hi, I said. Can I come by a beat? Yeah, sure, no questions, no why now. Just the hesitation of someone who wasn't ready but couldn't say no. I arrived 30 minutes later. Their house looked exactly like I remembered, tidy, sterile, a little too perfect. The flower beds were trimmed like they'd been measured with a ruler. Elliot opened the door, surprised but polite. He looked thinner, like he hadn't been eating much, or sleeping. Come in, he said, stepping aside. Inside, it smelled faintly of bleach and something floral, like Marina had sprayed the place down before she left. I didn't see her. I didn't ask. I sat on the edge of the couch while Elliot busied himself pouring tea he knew I wouldn't drink. I heard about Diane, I said. Finally. Yeah, he muttered. They still don't know what's wrong. I waited. He didn't offer more. I'm glad you sent that box, I said quietly. It surprised me. Elliot looked at me, a flicker of guilt crossing his face. I didn't make those truffles, he admitted. Marina did. I don't know. She said it might help. Did she tell you what was in them? He shook his head. I didn't even open the box. I just signed the card. I reached into my coat pocket and turned on the recorder without breaking eye contact. I gave the rest of them to Diane, I said. His face fell. She's the only one who still talked to me, I added. It felt easier. Elliot sat down across from me, fingers locked together. He looked away. She mentioned truffles before she collapsed, I said. Said I brought them. I didn't know, he said, his voice tight. You didn't ask what was in them. He looked at me now, really looked. She told me not to worry, said they were homemade, and you trusted that he hesitated. I didn't think I had a reason not to. That was when I knew. He hadn't known. But he was starting to suspect, just like I had. I leaned in slightly. Do you remember when you were a kid? And I made those walnut cookies? He blinked, caught off guard. You spit one into the trash, I said, then scrubbed your mouth like it was poison. A ghost of a smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. I hated walnuts. No, I said gently. You hated being surprised. He didn't respond, just stared at the carpet like it might give him answers. I found a bottle in my trash, I said. No label, just a ring of white powder. Elliot stiffened. And the truffle I saved, it tested positive for Monk's hood. His breath caught. What Dr. Serena Kwan ran the test. Quietly. He stood up, walked to the sink, and turned on the tap. Didn't do anything, just let the water run. His shoulders dropped slightly, the weight of something he didn't want to carry finally pressing down. I don't think you knew, I said, but I think you're starting to. He didn't deny it. Instead, he turned off the water and said quietly, she's been off lately. Off how she's been staying up late on her computer. She labels everything in the pantry with date codes. I found a jar of dried flowers I didn't recognize. Did you ask? She said it was for tea, he said, but I didn't drink it. We stood there in silence for a moment, mother and son surrounded by the smell of cleaning spray and something neither of us wanted to name out loud. I'm going to the police, I said, finally, with what I have. He didn't stop me, didn't argue, didn't ask me to protect her. All he said was, "Do you think she meant to hurt you?" I paused. I don't think I was ever the target. Detective Adrian Beckett didn't look how I imagined. You expect gray hair, a tired face, someone who's seen too much. But he looked young, mid-30s, clean-cut eyes, sharp like he didn't miss much, but soft enough to know when not to press. His office was tucked behind a quiet hallway at the Brookhaven police station. No drama, no mirrored rooms or two-way glass. Just a desk, two chairs, and a file cabinet that probably knew more secrets than I ever would. He offered me water. I declined. My hands were already too busy twisting the strap of my purse. I'd like to file a formal report, I said. He nodded slowly, pen hovering. What are we dealing with? I laid the evidence on the table, sealed truffle plastic bottle, a USB drive with Serena's toxicology report, and the audio recording from my conversation with Elliot. He didn't speak for a while, just read, listened, logged the time, asked clear, measured questions. Do you believe your son meant to harm you? No, I said. I believe he didn't know, and his wife. My silence answered for me. He leaned back, laced his fingers together. If what your lab contact found is accurate, and I have no reason to doubt it, this is attempted poisoning. That's a felony, Ms. Albright. I know. We'll open a case discreetly, he said. You'll be kept informed. If we gather enough, we'll move forward with a warrant. I nodded, then stood up before I changed my mind. Outside, the air felt heavy like it had thickened in the time I was gone. I went home and didn't speak to anyone for 2 days, not because I was hiding, but because I didn't know how to prepare Elliot for what was coming, and he wasn't calling either. On the third night, he showed up at my front door. He didn't knock, just stood there, shoulders slumped, eyes sunken from lack of sleep. I let him in without a word. He sat on the couch like it hurt to move, like every bone was carrying someone else's weight. She knows something's wrong, he said. Marina, he nodded. She's been colder, not angry, just distant. She keeps the doors locked when I leave. I think she's hiding something. I didn't say anything, just listened. She mentioned you the other night, he continued, said you've always hated her, that you want to break us apart. I leaned back, arms crossed, watching him. What do you think I asked? He looked down at his hands. I think she's not the same person I married. That was the closest he could come to saying he was scared. I got up and poured him tea. This time he drank it. I don't want to believe she did this, he said quietly, but part of you already does. He didn't deny it. Do you think he whispered she was trying to kill you? I met his eyes. I don't think I was the one she wanted gone. He froze. What do you mean I chose my words carefully? Maybe it was never about me. Maybe it was about the person in the middle. His breath caught. You think it was me? No, I said soft but firm. I think she wanted space, freedom, control, and I was in the way. He sat back silent. Then finally, she used me to deliver the box. I nodded. She didn't need you to know, just needed you to look innocent. We stayed like that for a while, two people caught in the wreckage of someone else's plan. Eventually, he stood. I need to see for myself. Be careful, I said. He nodded, then turned back. If she did this. I don't know who I've been living with. I watched him leave the door closing gently behind him, and I prayed for the first time in a long time, not for justice, but for clarity. Because sometimes the hardest part isn't knowing the truth. It's what the truth does to the people you love. I hadn't heard from Elliot in 2 days, not a word, not a knock, not even a late-night text asking if I was awake. I didn't chase him, didn't check in. I knew the silence was working on him the way it had worked on me. Quiet can be a scalpel. It cuts slow but clean. Then, late one evening, just as I was locking up for the night, I got a call. Detective Beckett. We have something, he said. You'll want to hear this. The next morning, I sat across from him at the same desk as before. He slid a file across the table, thick, printed, annotated. She's been posting in a series of online herbalist forums under different usernames, he said. One of our techs traced them back. She's been active for at least 3 years. He flipped open a page. Most of it looks innocent. Home remedies, tea blends, natural treatments. But scattered between the surface-level advice are clinical notes, precise terminology, experimental extractions, all anonymous, but all matching her known writing patterns. He tapped the page. Some of the language is an exact match with the toxicology report Serena submitted, word for word. I stared at the pages, not reading, just absorbing. She wasn't just curious, I said. She was practiced. He nodded, calculated. Another page, a scanned photo of a small leather-bound notebook, labeled tabs, dosages, plant names, not just monk's hood, a whole shelf of threats hidden in botanical language. We found this in a locked drawer in her office at home, he said. Warrant came through last night. Elliot let you in. He did. That surprised me more than anything. And Marina. She wasn't there when we arrived. She came home midway through the search. I waited. He paused. She didn't say much. Just stood by the doorway, arms crossed, watching us. Didn't ask why, didn't protest, as if she already knew. Goosebumps prickled my arms. Somehow that silence was louder than yelling would have been. What happens now, I asked. If Diane gives a statement once she recovers, and based on what we already have, we'll file charges. I nodded, then stood slowly, unsure what I felt. When I got home, I sat by the window for hours, didn't eat, didn't clean, just listened to the wind tap against the glass like it was trying to say something I couldn't hear. That night, Elliot showed up again. He looked different this time, not confused, not broken, just tired. I read the notebook, he said. You saw it. He nodded, eyes red. It wasn't about you, he said. Not entirely. I waited. He sat down like he needed to put his body somewhere before his mind caught up. She wrote about control, he said, about legacy, about erasing patterns that didn't serve her. Patterns, family dynamics, expectations, history. He looked up at me. She saw you as structure, a system, one she couldn't change, and Diane. His mouth twisted. She was a mirror, someone who kept expecting her to soften, to be better. I let that settle between us. She didn't want witnesses, I said. No, he said. She wanted a clean start. He rubbed his hands over his face. She told me once that clarity was the most powerful tool anyone could have. I thought she meant honesty. But now, I think she meant getting rid of what clouded the vision. I sat across from my son, unsure how to comfort him. There are no words for discovering the person you shared a life with had studied how to disappear people. When I handed her that box, he said I thought I was helping us heal. You couldn't have known, I said gently. But we both knew that wasn't entirely true. Somewhere in the corners of memory and the quiet between arguments and compromises, he must have felt it. We all do, when something's wrong, even if we don't say it. He stood up slowly. I'm going to stay at a friend's for a few days, he said. I need space. I nodded. You'll let me know how Diane's doing, I will. He paused at the door. I'm sorry, Mom. I know. Then he left. No dramatic exit, no tears. Just the quiet sound of the door closing behind him and the faint scent of something floral still clinging to his coat. 3 days passed. Elliot didn't call, but I wasn't expecting him to. Some truths are too heavy to carry and too sharp to hand off. I spent the time cleaning out my hallway closet, not out of necessity, but to make space, literal space. Sometimes, when your whole world is unraveling, putting folded towels in the right order is the only kind of control that makes sense. Then one evening, just after dusk, I got a call. Detective Beckett, again. We're moving forward, he said. The case is strong enough now. Diane's conscious and stable, and she gave a formal statement. He paused. There's one more thing you should know. My heart didn't race, not anymore. She was caught on a security camera last month buying dried monk's hood at a niche herbal shop outside Portland. Cash only, hoodie, sunglasses, but it's her. And Elliot, he's cooperating, but emotionally, he's struggling. Of course he is. What son wouldn't be? Later that night, I stood at my kitchen window watching headlights turn into my driveway. A knock. This time it was soft. I opened the door to find Marina standing there. Her coat was buttoned perfectly makeup, light hair tucked behind one ear like she was heading to brunch, not facing an investigation. "Hi, June," she said. Calm. Too calm. "Marina, can I come in?" I hesitated, then stepped aside. She walked into my living room like she'd been there 100 times, though she never had. Not since the wedding. "I heard you've been busy," she said, turning slowly, eyes landing on the framed photos, the vase of tulips on the dining table. "You heard about Diane." She looked at me with a measured tilt of the head. "I did. I watched her every breath, every blink." "You didn't ask if she's okay," I said. "Would it matter if I did?" That landed like a punch wrapped in silk. I didn't respond, just waited. She crossed her arms. "You know I really did try," she said. "I tried to play nice, to fit. But you never let me in." "You never wanted in," I replied. "You wanted control." She smiled, the kind that didn't reach her eyes. "Control is peace, June. It's the absence of chaos. You called it manipulation. I called it design. Designing who lives and who dies. Her face didn't change. You gave the truffles to my mother," she said. My jaw clenched. "You left them at my door. Technically, Elliot did. And technically, you used him." She took a step forward. "You could have thrown them away, but you didn't. You picked the perfect person, soft, generous Diane. Your clean conscience. You poisoned a woman who loved you," I said. Voice low. She was weak. The words hit like ice. She wanted me to be softer, sweeter, less precise. She thought love was mess. "Love is mess," I said. She stared at me. Not angry, not flustered, just still. "You really believe you're the victim here," I said. "I'm not a victim," she answered. "I'm simply what happens when no one listens." We stood there, the room heavy with something unspeakable. Then I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. "I've been recording since you stepped through the door." She blinked. "Once." "That's not admissible," she said. "It doesn't need to be. Detective Beckett already has enough." For the first time, her expression cracked, just a flicker, a shift in her posture, a half step back. "That's why you called me here," she said. "You wanted to see if I'd fold." "No," I said. "I wanted to see if you'd look me in the eye." She did, then straightened her coat. "You've won nothing." I nodded slowly. "Maybe not, but I'm still standing, and you're still pretending." She turned toward the door, then looked back. "Elliot will never forgive you." "He doesn't have to," I said. "He just has to survive you." And with that, she left. No door slam, no final threat, just the sound of heels on concrete fading into the dark. Marina was arrested 2 days later. It didn't make the news. Detective Beckett kept his word, quiet, clean, no spectacle. Elliot didn't call, not right away. I imagined him sitting alone in that too-quiet house, hearing echoes of conversations that now meant something else. A drawer full of labels, a cupboard full of secrets. Diane was recovering. Slowly, they moved her out of ICU and into a private room. She couldn't remember the exact moment it happened, only that everything had gone soft around the edges, like a window fogging up from the inside. I visited once. We didn't talk about Marina. We didn't have to. I brought flowers. She took my hand. That was enough. Later that week, Elliot showed up at my door. No warning. Just him holding a cardboard box filled with odds and ends, a few clothes, a pair of shoes, his wedding ring. He didn't say much, just set the box down in the hallway and sat at the table like he'd never left. We drank coffee in silence. Then he asked, "Do you still have it?" It took me a second to know what he meant. I got up, walked to the closet, and pulled down a small fireproof lockbox. Inside was the truffle chocolate sealed in its evidence bag. Next to it, the birthday card. "Happy birthday, Mom. Let's start over." I set the box between us. Elliot stared at it for a long time. His face didn't move, but his hands tightened around the coffee mug. "I'm sorry," he said. "I know," I replied. He didn't ask if I forgave him. I think he knew the answer wouldn't come in words. Later that night, after he left for a friend's place, I stood in the kitchen with the box still open in front of me. I picked up the truffle, still perfect, still untouched, held it under the light, watched the sugar crystals catch the glow. Then I placed it back beside the card and shut the lid, not to forget, but to remember what I almost missed. There are things we survive, there are things we carry, and then there are things we lock away, not out of fear, but because we've earned the right to never open them again.